Samantha, Digital Innovation Leader for JCPS. Brandy New, I think she'll be joining us later, Hardin County Schools Instructional Technology Coordinator, and Dana Dowdy, Graves County Digital Learning Coach. We may also have Heather Royal joining us. She's the Executive Administrator of Digital Innovation for JCPS. Hello, Digital Innovation Leader for JCPS. Welcome to everybody that's joining us on YouTube today. Brandy or Courtney or somebody will be watching the questions on the live chat, so make sure you drop in there and introduce yourself and let us know what county or state you're from. If you don't have the chat capability on YouTube, make sure you log into YouTube with your Google account. And while you're there, check the subscribe button so you can easily continue to learn from us and share with us. All right, welcome to Chris McIntyre, Chief Financial Officer here at Warren County Public Schools. It's great to have you on the show today.
Good morning, Ms. Buss and ladies, and everyone joining us today. I appreciate our technology team having the bravery of being able to put me on live stream without any edits. That does say something about their risk-taking abilities here in Warren County, and I greatly appreciate that. However, today, I'm first going to go over my why. This is my 15th at banking. I am an accountant, so if today's show is a little slow, I'll apologize in advance, and we can all blame Amy Buss and email her, please. Don't email me for any of the things. But first, my why. I have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old, and my challenge always to them is, how do you improve? How do you make yourself better? How do you learn new things in life? And put yourself out there to be that risk taker to learn something. If you're not learning, you're going to be lost and move behind. So my example for my kids, and I coach basketball and baseball and have coached many other sports, is you always got to be up for the challenge. So if I'm going to challenge the kids, my kids, those kids I coach, the kids at Warren County Schools, I got to show them that I'm up for a challenge too. And that's where I got my why behind why I went to Google platform to communicate and collaborate with the folks in Warren County on documentations that is needed and beneficial for the finance team. The other big why is just what I mentioned, the collaboration factor. It's a game changer as far as I'm concerned. As to principals, bookkeepers, my team being able to multitask on information and us all be able to share information in live real time as opposed to emailing Excel files back and forth. Now, with that said, I still am a heavy Excel user. There are things that I'm going to do in Excel that I'm not comfortable with or don't want to do in Google. But for what we do with the school side of the house, and I'll show you multiple things today, I think it's a great way to roll out information to the schools, make sure they have it in real time. So with that said, I'm going to hop right into it. If there's questions, comments, or snide remarks about Ms. Buss, please just stop us and let us know. We'd be more than happy to entertain those. Let's see, make sure I got my screen sharing. The ladies, I assume, will tell me if I messed that up. Okay, let's hop right into my drive. You'll see several folders down through here, and I'll get into those in a little bit. But I've created several things with feedback from the technology team, my staff, and school folks as to what would be beneficial. The latest thing that I've rolled out is a financial calendar. Within that calendar, you'll see it's blank right now because there's nothing happening that's due this week. What I've done is put all employee paydays. That seems to be a hot topic within Warren County. Everybody wants to know when they get paid. So not only do I add the paydays on the calendar, but for them to be able to access their W-4, their address change, or just their paycheck, also include in the notes the information for that. It helps reduce the telephone calls here at the district. It will not eliminate them by no means. Also, the employee open enrollment insurance. We did extended hours here at central office, so I put that information on there. If we jump on to later next year, I'm sorry, wrong calendar, that's going week by week. We get into May, when a bunch of stuff is due for bookkeepers, such as the individual activity account budget. It's out there. They all have access to this calendar. They all can set up their notification rules within the calendar individually to allow them to be notified when things happen. We will obviously continue to go through each year and add information to this to be beneficial to all users. That's for my team. All of them have editing rights within this calendar to be able to add information they see pertinent to be shared with bookkeepers, principals, so on. The next thing that I'll jump right back into is a finance reference guide. This year in Warren County, we have 23 A1 schools, I apologize. Of those, we have 8 brand new principals. One of the hardest challenges is getting to know the credit card linked account number and why it exists, the why behind it. So what I've created is basically a informational guide that location code, if they don't know their school code, it's there for them in 2 locations. It's by alpha and it's by numeric. It also tells the fund codes and gives a little brief explanation as to what each fund is. The laundry list of key codes that they can utilize is listed, or if they just see a key code on their site-based budget report and don't have a clue what it is, then they have a point of reference to tie that back to. Object codes, we used to get several principals many years ago that would just code everything to 0610. Obviously, I'm a little OCD as an accountant, and I like things to be coded correctly. Thereby, I've created a list of object codes and split those out by headers as far as what they pertain to. And then I've also given them the description. I'm sure all principals logged in and have read this extensively. Kidding, probably not many, but their bookkeepers do have a good point of reference for those. In addition, we have all of the projects within Warren County Schools set up, and we keep these updated as far as if they have a question of which one's Title I, they can hit the find, and if they can spell, they have the opportunity to go through and see what all Title I they have and who's the grant manager for that project and the project codes that are available. Obviously, we've got some cleanup to do because D year and C year money was a few years back. So my team needs to go in there and update that information. So that is kind of the collaborative effect I like on this reference guide is to help new principals, especially if they printed out a report about to walk into a site-based meeting and have a question of their own before they get asked those questions. In addition, we have all the finance contacts, the principals, bookkeepers, fixed asset inventory contacts in the district. That's more for collaborative impact at the school level. They can make colleagues across the district contact when they have questions that they need advice on. So that's kind of, well, one more tab, I apologize. This is my team and what they are responsible for in-house. So if someone does have a question, they can look on here and see who to email if they're looking at information on the weekend or at night, as opposed to just calling the central office to get the question answered. All right, I'm moving fast, so I'm going to keep on trucking unless somebody slows me down.
We have one question.
Okay.
No question, Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a Gmail district?
Yes, ma'am, we are Gmail
You
district.
are? Okay. All right. We were picking up on that, but we were wanting to clarify that. An awesome sheet. I'm thinking back in the day when I was an assistant principal and I moved from one district to another, and processes are different. That would have been worth gold for me, just to have had a finance officer say, this will help you out. Here's a cheat sheet. Do you get in front of your new principals like often, or how does that work? Like, how do you communicate this so they know what you have?
So when they're hired, I have a sit-down meeting with new principals. Bookkeepers also have access to this, so the principals have to rely on their bookkeepers also. But we have a little tutorial of here's the important things. I'll park them out in the shared folder within their school so they have easy access to them. And we walk through, do you want to bookmark it? Do you want to save it to a special folder where you know all the information is go back each month? And then they all have my cell phone, so they can text me to ask questions, and I'll typically reference the information where they can find it to help them out along with answer their question.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. The other thing we transformed, and I'll have to give a large shout out to our technology department in assisting in making this very successful, is getting travel authorizations. We used to do a 4-ply form that had multiple signatures on it, and everybody had to try to keep up with it, and those got lost, and any number of events happened. So now we moved it all to the Gmail type platform. To request authorization, there's a form now that you can find on our website. If people do not know how to spell their name in the email, it will reject. So I'll just type mine in email. I get to choose who my supervisor is. In this one, I want to choose myself, so my superintendent does not get an email wondering why employee X is going to conference Y today. He'd be very confused, and I'll probably get an email from him. Obviously, this is for principals only. I don't get this information unless it's my team going somewhere. But it gives all the information that a principal needs to make a decision. The reason I want a start time and an end time on here is to book or see how much travel reimbursement they qualify for. If the meeting doesn't start at 12 and it's in Louisville, I'm not going to reimburse them for breakfast per se. And if the date that they come back is the next day and the conference ends at 12 p.m. in Louisville the next day, I shouldn't be reimbursing them for dinner on that trip. Sub-required, no. And then you just go through the registration. Basically, the information your principal or your supervisor needs to know to approve or consider the trip that you're going on, and staff member submittal. And then it goes from here into an email to the supervisor and carbon copies the staff member, as long as the staff member puts in their correct email address. There is that asterisk by that. Then the principal logs in and will hit a supervisor submittal, and it has a code in there that they have to enter, an authorization code, before they can move forward and approve the trip. And then afterwards, the individual will get an email back showing that they have truly been approved for the trip. And I'm just going to pick a random one. This is the nice beauty about the form, is the form creates a Google sheet that has every person that has submitted a response or a request to travel since we started. So I'm going to Miss Tudor. She wanted to go, she's at Southbourne High School, field trip to Life Science, Chicago. It has all her information in there. Substitute required, the cost of the trip. And this goes back to when you get someone who says, I submitted this, or a supervisor who says, well, I know I signed off on it. Well, then it's date time stamped when all that happens. And it creates a form and an email back to the individual. So once I get over here, I can click on this and see the form that is sent back to Ms. Tudor authorizing her trip. The funding source, you might say, undefined, so would one be concerned about that? Well, since at this point they don't come to finance, I'm not concerned about it. If they want reimbursement, then they're going to have to define that authorization code within their travel reimbursement form. And since I just closed out of my webpage, let's go back a second. Because the reimbursement form is also emailed to the individuals once the authorization is approved. And you'll note, I don't want to, I have a copy out here. So anytime a person goes in for the travel reimbursement form that's out of district, they have to make a copy. That's whereby each person has a unique blank form as opposed to going in and entering somebody's information by accident. But this form lays out the district policy and procedures for travel. You'll notice we'll have a non-high rate area and a high rate area, along with the information that is required before we will reimburse you for your travel. And allocation codes up here. So I'm not concerned with it being the authorization form. That's more for the principal information. And then he or she or supervisor, and then he or she can denote the allocation code once the form is completed. And then on the high rate areas, I simply point them out to the Kentucky travel website that has a list of those high rate areas. So that always stays up to date, and I don't have to worry about identifying or keeping up with which areas are considered high rate.
Hey, Chris, can we stop you real quick and ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, right there on the sheet that you're on.
Yes.
What are the magic bits that you have running in the background there? Is that Formula or Autocrat, or what's doing your work there?
Both Formula and Autocrat. So the add-ons are what you said.
Yep.
And that's the part that my technology team really helped me out on, is because finding the right add-ons can be a challenge. So those who have experience within those can be a huge value for you.
Excellent. And one more question back on the reimbursement.
Yes.
Are you collecting receipts for that? And if so,
No,
how?
Nope.
Okay.
No receipts. You get it's for in non-high rate areas, it's $36 a day. And then if, for instance, the lunch is included, we deduct amount for the lunch. Even if you don't eat the lunch, it's included at the conference. And those amounts are on that reimbursement form as far as how much we reduce the potential for reimbursement if you don't leave until 10 o'clock in the morning to make a 1 p.m. conference, or B, that the meal or meals were included at the conference.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, there's no more on that. Let's see where my next adventure will take us. Let's go to facility improvement. I'm going to back up for a second. So within my school finance and HR operations information center, I created that folder, and then I created elementary, middle, and high school based on their levels. And each one has a folder within. Obviously, not every principal can see every folder. So the sharing rights are back up, right click, or if you have a Apple machine, however you go about sharing there, is you'll see who I have it shared with. And as principals come and go, I can add and remove, or if a principal wants to share it with their assistant principal or dean or whatever they have at their facility, that's 100% left up to them. But within each folder for the elementary, we have finance, HR and payroll, maintenance, and playground. We have a playground inspector in district, and he does go around do audit reports, make pictures, findings, and he denotes all that in here for the principals to follow up on. Let's go back to Alberton, maintenance and facilities. So we differentiate in Warren County. My roles include finance, along with construction, major renovations, and amendments to facilities. So we're looking at Alberton Elementary School, and a principal has a need that is not your typical replacing filters for HVAC or light bulb went out, just your minor maintenance, recurring maintenance things. They submit a request per this form. And you can see replace ceramic in hallway and add ceramic logo, grand hallway intersection. So basically we have ceramic tile all throughout the corridors in this elementary school. Where we had expansion joints, a lot of the tile was becoming unsightly, broken, and creating issues, thereby the principal wanted it resolved. So she put in a request for us to look into it. We approved it. Mr. Crooks is our director of maintenance, is who I assigned it to. The vendor doing the work. We do have drop downs. The district is paying for this. Cost, I don't recall, I want to say 13,000 or so. But at any rate, it gives all the information. What's the nice thing about this is my fixed asset inventory team is also shared on these sheets. Thereby, they can go back and tie out PO numbers, make sure we capture all the facility improvements and or things that need to be capitalized. And if a new principal comes in, he or she then can look back at what projects we've completed at that school, what projects we did not authorize at that school. So every week there's a group of 4 of us that meet, 5 of us that meet, including technology, maintenance, the chief operations officer, and myself. And we will go through this condensed list, which our maintenance director and his clerical assistant maintain. So his clerical assistant will take the information off the document we just discussed, put it in more of a condensed version here, whereby we can meet Thursday, make a decision, see if it's within budget for the year, and move on it, defer it, or deny it. And you'll see all of our schools are listed, and we just roll through those each week, or sometimes every couple of weeks, depending on our schedules. But that's been a huge add, and it gives the principals auto feedback. If it is approved on that other form, then they can see when it's approved or when it might be scheduled and who's doing the work as a means of communication with those different facilities. Questions, comments before I move on?
I think we're all kind of blown away. I have a question, and Amy, I don't know if she wants me to ask this or not, but do you present this at like the school finance conference and at CASBO and all that?
I have not presented this at CASBO. I've presented this at Direct. I have also presented small parts of it. I present usually the last few years 2 sessions at the February KSBA conference with board members. So they've got a slice of it, but not the whole entirety.
And Elaine right now, where she does all the magic on the back end, that she was talking about how much time this has to save you. Like before you transformed and made this system, where did all of this live? Are you talking about binders, tons of paper, hard drives? Where did you store all this information before you switched it over? And how much time do you think that this is saving you and your department?
Prior to converting to this, information was everywhere, right? People had different Excel documents. Did they stay up to date? That was a challenge. paper here and there. Did somebody read their email? Did they maintain their email? Did they respond to the person that had the request? Did they respond in a timely manner? It saves us countless hours. And the beauty is everybody's on the same communication stream.
Accuracy. Accurate.
Yes, ma'am.
That's awesome. And back to the presenting, every finance officer should have to see this.
I appreciate that. The next one's probably the one I'm most proud of. And not that the other ones are not hugely beneficial, but SPDM allocations is the next topic for me. And with 23 A1 schools, communicating with them on their staffing. I do 3 staffing spreadsheets a year. One in late December. Usually I tell them it's going to be done over Christmas break to watch out for their email to come through. That's the preliminary one for us to have discussions on. The second one is the mandatory required by May 1. And then the third one obviously is our final in September. So this is my mass spreadsheet that I work through, where I keep historical enrollment figures, our projections versus actuals for the current year. Superintendent board members like to see that. If we have redistricting, the impact, and it flows into the sheets that will come up. Elementary worksheet, this is where I go by and look individually at a school. Never been a principal, never been in that setting. My goal, my job is to look at the numbers. I collaborate with the chief academic officer in, okay, does it make sense to do split classrooms? How can we help the school? And because we round to the 100th spot in staffing allocations. So does it make sense? Where are there available seats? Are there available seats in that to help principals out? So taking to look at Allenton Elementary School. Again, this is what their SPDM allocation looks like. And all the information is linked and calculations are done where I don't have to redundantly type a bunch of information. So we go down through here and they can see me do this individually. So you can probably say, okay, how can they see you do this individually and not be able to see all the other schools? So if I go back to Allenton and I'm in the finance folder, I'm looking at their 1920 SPDM allocation. That this is what the school sees. So one can say, how can they only see their school and not everybody else's? It's a simple formula that is an import range. So I go in and import range from my master workbook of what range I want them to be able to see at the school level. So as I'm in the master updating, this is updating automatically. There might be a couple second delay, but principals, if I'm in there in December updating information, and we're on the phone talking, I'm updating the master, then they can see it change in real time on what they have at the school level. And I've got, once again, segment between elementary, middle, and high schools. They all look a little bit different. However, it's set up the same way going throughout.
You should be very proud of that sheet. That was really good.
I have it in Excel, and then, I had to print them out, print them to PDF. Then I'd have to load the individual PDFs to a shared folder within a shared drive, and principals wouldn't know where the shared drive is on their network, or I'd have to email it to the individual principal. it just became a nightmare as far as keeping track and having them real-time data that they have access to, not trying to find an email or me forgetting to send an email. They have it in real time.
Or them accidentally looking at the wrong email from the wrong year. I mean, I can tell absolute horror stories just across the state of listening to people talk, and this eliminates that. So 2 thumbs up. Elaine is smiling really big. Again, she can't talk, but she is all the feels on the, right now while we're watching this.
And the beauty of this too is before I take it to the board for consideration, the schools have plenty of time to review it to make sure I didn't goof a number. I mean, I'm human, mistakes happen, and they can ask me, man, you got our count at 1285 for this. Why are you only projecting us for 1276 next year? So we can talk through those before I take them to the board to look at, which makes nice conversation pieces.
A little bit off topic on the YouTube channel. Ben Frazier wants to know which one of those buttons do you hit to get Plano some more money?
Plano is so flush in cash that Frazier doesn't know how to spend it fast enough, I've heard. Let's take another little bit deeper dive into what we do here. Let me see what sheet I have. Okay, so each year, myself, the Chief Academic Officer, the Director of HR, and the Federal Director of Federal Programs sit down with each individual supervisor, each principal, and each support supervisor in the entire district one at a time and talk about every single employee they have in their building. The reason I do this is A, to reconcile back to Section 4 units to make sure I don't owe them money or they don't owe me money, along with classified hours, coaching supplements, other laundry list of supplements. I'll get to those in a couple of minutes on some different tabs. But we literally go down through every employee, 6880, okay? I blacked out the names. High school teacher, yep. 21 years experience, or I'm sorry, he's a rank 2 teacher with his grade. Step 7, his allocation code, yep, that counts against me for my Section 4 units. And so this is the sum from below. That's what I put in off the SPDM final allocation sheet. My difference is 0. So we go through there. And I share this with the principals prior to them coming in and meet with us, so they can obviously non-renew somebody and put that on this sheet. And that's just an ESS student worker in that category. So obviously it's probably a senior who's graduating, so we need to take them out of the pay screen. Or if they're changing supplements going into the next year, we make all those notes down through here. Keep up with the number of extended days allocated to the school, total supplements, coaching supplements, Section 5 hours. We do hours in Warren County as opposed to specific positions. The reason is it gives our administrators the flexibilities to staff their schools how they so choose with those classified folks. But as you can see, we scroll through, and this for a high school is typically a 2-hour discussion. They've got, and if an employee is allocated amongst different expense codes, if there are 2 lines or multiple lines in here, but we go through every one of them and discuss. Now, while we're going through there discussing, I will also have multiple other sheets open at the same time. Throughout the year, people change, right? Classified staff come and go. So I have a classified Section 5 workbook sheet that has, the benefit of this is if a new principal comes in, they have the information all the way back to 2014-15 school year in this school to be able to go back and see how they utilize the hours and then make an evaluation after their first year of being principal, does that make sense? Or do they want to change it? But they come in here, they put the employee name in or put a to be determined name in, select from the drop down the aid position that's going to be working in, number of days per year, hours per day, and it comes down here and they reconcile out. Now, some of our schools will overspend the hours, so they'll come down here and give employee numbers, employee name that they want to pay for hours from. So if they're over 100 hours, they put 100 hours in here. It has to reconcile to 0. So if I went here to 72 and put 72 days, 4 hours a day. I mean, that's a bad example with that's just a part-time person being added on. If I want to go back up here and put 8 hours a day for this instructional assistant, they're 180 hours over. They'd have to go in here and put 180 hours in. They don't necessarily have to take it from that individual. They can say, okay, my ISS aide is my cheapest person, and Warren County will allow them to pay for their cheapest person. They just say SC6X. That's their Section 6 funding source or Title I or whatever it may be. And then they have to get site-based consideration and send that to HR. And then if they change it throughout the year, you can see there's HR notes over here. The principal can make notes in there to notify HR. Also, the nice thing is HR has the rights turned on when there is a change to this form. An email is sent to one of the ladies in HR that a change has been made. The other beauty of it is the, find it real quick, the version history. As the owner, I can go in and see who made changes historically and go back to versions. So that also helps out when somebody says, I didn't change that. Well, now I can prove that they did change it, when they changed it, and what they changed it to, and what it was before that. So I'm looking at that sheet, and highlighting in green means we've talked about all those people, and that we agree that that's what they're being currently set up. We agree that that is what is currently in payroll and that individual is being paid for. We do it on our supplement sheets also. We walk through each individual employee. We balance out the extended days, the supplement totals that we allocate. We give all that, and I'll green off all that as we have those meetings. Same for coaching. Every position is in there with the supplements, and also on the supplements, they have guidelines by which they have maximum salaries for each position that's been approved by the board and the minimum number of positions required by sports. We don't also want the football team to have one head coach and one assistant coach trying to manage 80 kids. That presents its own set of issues. So principals know that information, and they can go in and make notes. HR has a column to make notes. South Warren High School for this one has a column to make notes, and HR is notified when anything changes within there, so they can have notification that they should be anticipating a resignation letter from a coach, or they are going to be opening a position for a replacement coach or a new coach.
Hey, Chris, just a couple of questions on our chat that we're discussing here. How do you share this, or do you share this digitally with your board of education, and what's the reaction to that? And also, did any board policies have to be changed to get all of these workflows going, or did you just jump right in?
I jump right in. The board is not shared on any of these informational sheets. The superintendent, 2 assistant superintendents are shared on all the sheets, along with the principal and HR and a couple of people off my team. But this information's out there for our principals to have access to.
Okay, and how did you shift when you started doing this to get away from the mentality of we've always done it this way.
That's where I'm kind of a little type A, and this is how we're going to go in a new direction. And my team in finance is used to that. We change quite a bit each year, and I'm very open and willing to change and try new stuff, as long as it makes sense and as long as we can gain some efficiencies within that. There's no sense in me emailing 4 Excel spreadsheets around multiple times to get information, or every time a principal changes a supplement or a person resigns, they send a new spreadsheet to HR to notify them of that change. That's just, there's only a certain amount of hours in the day, and we all, I would assume, like to be out doing something else besides sitting at work 24/7. So this greatly expedites that.
Kudos to your leadership. Sorry, but I mean, often, like, we may have awesome ideas, but that fear of change, and for you to just be gas pedal down, and this is what we're going to do for the greater good, and everyone's going to jump on board. That's great leadership. I'm so glad that that's the way you lead, and you can tell with your type A that everyone is benefiting. So, awesome job having the courage to just change and adapt for the greater good, because we have all these digital tools. Why not? But it's that fear, and you just went full force. I mean, this isn't something you did like last month. This has been for a while that you've been working on this. So awesome. Awesome.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that. Nothing happens overnight, but it's how you build upon each chunk that you're taking off that elephant. And I've got a great team in finance, and our principals within Warren County have done a tremendous job, have really supported our transition. It helps them. It makes their life easier. And we are support services, and my job is to help make the lives easier of those who are out there in the trenches trying to make kids successful every day, given the hurdles we have in making that happen. So I appreciate your kind comments. I will close out of all of these unless there's other questions, and hop right into my team also. So myself and the Chief Academic Officer and Special Ed Director, before we allocate new special ed staff and or we allocate aides, so forth, the special ed director and her team secretary has to go in here and update information for us. And each school has a tab, and we will look through. So, for instance, sitting down once again, I'm the numbers person, the chief academic officer, and the director of special ed are the classroom folks that have that experience. So it's a collaborative discussion and decision what we can make that's best for kids. We're not strictly looking at it on a numbers basis. But I know without thinking about it that they got 40 kids through referrals. Each special ed teacher can have 15 on caseload unless they have an assistant, and you can get a waiver to have 17 on caseload. Even though it's not filled in down here, each speech teacher can have 65 hours of students on their caseload a week. It should not go over that for their license. So we walk through, if Cumberland Trace, for instance, wants another teacher, then we have to talk about why. Because with 50, I see 8 on referrals. Referrals doesn't not mean they qualify. That just means they're in the pipe. Then 3 teachers with 4 aides should give me 51 spots with the waiver. So we have a discussion. Okay, yes, it gives us 51 spots, but here's the dynamic and the challenges of the kids that comprise this 50 within the resource. So we have those discussions to see, A, do we add another aide? B, do we look at adding a half teacher? C, is there a school that has excess capacity in their students? So if they got 38 kids and 3 teachers, does it make sense to move a half a teacher? Or do they got 30 kids with 3 teachers? Does it make sense to move? So we have those conversations before we make a change. And so you have to know, from a finance perspective, you have to know those limits on each classroom to be able to make a good discussion or have a good discussion with those other folks to make that. Because we all know we can never spend enough on special ed. We can never spend enough on our regular ed students to meet the diversity and challenges of each and every child. Then I want to cruise to the EL one real quick. Basically, my focus has been on what level are they at, as opposed to how many kids. Yes, we have a lot of kids, students in EL. I think our number is somewhere around 2,350, if memory serves me correctly, and that changes daily with new enrollees. But I'm concerned about level 1s and 2s. They just typically, most of ours are straight out of a refugee camp. They've never been to school before. They're new to our country. So what type of resources do we need to provide to them versus our 4, 5s, and 6s, who some of the 6s probably speak and understand the English language better than I do. So we have those discussions before we start making allocations to accommodate the needs within that program. Questions or comments on that before I go to the next one? And this will be my last topic for today that's on my note sheet for myself.
Chris, Elaine had a question. Do you track the counselor time like you do the special ed tracking with the new KDE regs, or is that something somebody else does?
No, that's strictly out of Michelle Blick's department in special ed.
What I love about this too is this just goes to show how every person involved in a school district has an impact on the support and education of our students. So especially that EL tracking and the special ed tracking, that's just amazing and wonderful.
Thank you. The last form, construction, and I'm not sure how many of you deal or have dealt with construction, but it is in of itself its own beast. We have a few projects going on in Warren County, approximately 70-ish million in projects at this point in time across many different campuses. So I have a person on my team that has collaborated with Ms. Buss in helping me out on loading documents, change orders, BG1s, so on and so forth that need board approval or need me to be able to see them. Me going through my email is not a very efficient way of me being able to keep up or remember what I've signed off on or have not signed off on. But so with that said, our vendors have a portal that they log into. As you can see, they have to submit their name, who they're with, proposed change orders, and then we mark it or they mark it as if it needs board approval or not. So when it's loaded, and I cannot edit my response because I'm not responding to that document. I apologize. Once Callie on my team has approved the document, I'll go down here to one that is highlighted. Then I know I can go in and it's a legitimate contract. I'll look through it, make sure I agree with everything on that contract. And I simply mark approved or not approved. If I mark not approved, then I give a reason. That reason's sent on to Callie, and she works her magic to send it on to the vendor. And then it's a smooth process. And it's a process where I can go back if a board member asks me, did we not approve a owner contract from CMTA on some project? Well, let me go back and look, and it's right there at my fingertips without me searching through my email or going to the backpack program at KDE. I have in Google Docs. I've also created a construction folder. Get back here. So the information that I want to share with the schools, they don't need to see all of the information, but typically they like to see pictures and site layouts. So that will be our next school that's going up on Cumberland Trace Road, which if you're driving north or south on I-65 or up between mile marker 22 and 20, you'll be able to see, I apologize, exit 26 and exit 22. You'll see a big building coming up out of the ground that looks like it's going to tower over I-65. That will be our newest elementary school for Warren County Schools. So that principal now has it where he has the rights to share it out with his team at the school, share it with the PTO, PTA, whomever he, or in this case, would like to share it with. Questions, comments, or food for thought?
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's a really neat thing for our vendors and also to help with the efficiency and workflow internally with so many construction projects that are taking place in a growth district. So I applaud you for that and hats off to you for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry?
Do we have any questions on the chat, Brandy, or anything like that?
Nope. I think we asked him all as he was going.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so very much for sharing with us today. We truly appreciate it, and we really think that this would be very beneficial to other CDFOs. And what advice would you give other chief financial officers across the state with regards to establishing these systems of efficiency?
My direction or input would be simply to take one step at a time. Get comfortable. Make sure you're nice to your technology staff because you're going to need them, right? Miss Buss has given me a few gray hairs over the years, but she comes to help me out when I call, so I do appreciate that. But it's not trying to take it all on at one time. What's something that you can convert out of an Excel file into a Google platform, clean it up, and then how do you share it and go about it? That's the simplest way of doing it. And then what can you hijack from someone else that's already created it, steal it, replicate it, and use it yourself. Claim it as your own, act like you're the genius behind it. So it's not always about being the leader of the pack in that. Steal some of the leader's ideas and rock it out yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
What a great show, and we want to thank everybody for joining us today. Brandy, would you like to share how everyone can get continued support and stay connected to Kentucky Go Digital?
Yeah, make sure you go over and follow the YouTube channel so that you can rewatch this episode over and over and steal all of Chris's ideas from today, or check out past episodes. We'll have another November episode covering esports that we're all really excited about. So pop on over to Twitter and follow us on the KYGO Digital hashtag to see exact times on that show. And keep connecting with us there and let us know what you're creating and so we can share it throughout the state. Thanks.
Get involved with Kentucky Go Digital. Attend regional events. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel